Hello, my name is Alex Blackie. I'm a senior rec major at University of Manat Machias, and this is my presentation on sculptures in ancient Egypt. First, I want to go over some general information about these sculptures in ancient Egypt. The ancient Egyptians made sculptures of varying sizes from a variety of different materials, which I'll get into here in a little bit. The Egyptians had a very strict parameters of what they could make or how they could make it specifically. That's why there's a lot of similarities between certain items that you will see. Each part of the body had a certain size and proportion that it had to be. More important parts of the body, such as the head and the shoulders, tended to be bigger and more prominent. The best works often the ones that showed emotion, um, while still conforming to the strict parameters that were set in place. Something I thought was pretty interesting is that sculptors didn't place their name on any of their work, so there's no idea who made what. There's a lot of sculptures out there that have no idea who made them, which is something that's different nowadays. People tend to put their name on work when they do it. They made huge colossus of rulers and smaller figures that would be placed in the tombs that represented workers that would accompany the deceased to the afterlife. We'll talk more about the tombs here in a short minute. So now I'm going to talk about the materials that they used. Um, Most of the large sculptures were made out of sandstone. That was just the best material they had, as well as it was easy to sculpt, pretty much to use. Small to mid-sized sculptures were made from a variety of items, including painted wood, limestone, rose granite, gray lacquer, clay, bronze, copper, and other materials. Some of the small sculptures were made from a material called anortite gneiss, which glows in the sunlight. It gives a deep blue color, which is the photo in the middle. It looks pretty cool and has a very interesting finish on it. Um, the ones on the sides were made out of bronze. You can also use copper or other metals. In this process, what they used is wax, and that's how they made the mold. First, what they do is a form was made of wax molded around a piece of clay. Then was then the form was enclosed in the clay um, mold with pins used to stabilize the form. The mold was then fired in a kiln, and the mold hardened into um, ceramic, and the wax burned and melted away, leaving behind a cavity in the shape of the original form. And then metal was poured into the cavity for the mold. The metal sculpture was removed by breaking the clay away when it was sufficiently cooled. So this process would take quite a while, and you could not reuse a mold. So every sculpture was unique, but also had to stay within the strict parameters that they had. So they were still a little different. Here I'm going to talk about some of the more famous large sculptures in Egypt. The one on the right is the Colossi of Manon. This was made from blocks of sandstone which were quarried near what modern-day Cairo is. It was then moved to this location, stacked, and then carved into this sculpture. It is about 60 feet tall and is estimated to weigh 720 tons. There's another sculpture right near it. It looks very similar, but this is the more prominent one of the two. And the one on the right is the Great Sphinx of Giza. It was made about 4,500 years ago out of limestone. It is one of the largest monuments in the world. It is also known as one of the 7 wonders of the world. The statue was created for Pharaoh Kharif. It is about 240 feet long and about 66 feet tall. In 1928, there was a shaft that was discovered leading into the Sphinx, but it wasn't explored until 1980. There were chambers found in 1987. There's a large and a small chamber inside the Sphinx. Those have all been explored throughout the 80s and 90s. Something else with the larger of the sculptures is the pharaohs commissioned rigid monument statues to glorify themselves while they were still alive. The Egyptians were never able to make freestanding human sculptures. That's why you'll see them all sitting down, like the one on the right, or coming out of a wall. A wall of sandstone is what it was carved into. Next, I'm going to talk about sculptures in the tombs. Sculptures were placed in the tombs for various different reasons. The statues of the deceased were placed next to the mummy. The tombs were where they would bury important pharaohs or other people, and they would place these statues next to them. They were not for the public to see or as a memorial. They were there for a substitute if something was to happen to the mummy or as an offering. Once the tombs were sealed, once the mummy was in there, the sculptures were done, the tombs were all sealed off for many years until people started discovering them thousands of years later. But there was an important ritual that they partaked in with having the sculptures in there, and there was a big meaning behind them, and they were very important to the pharaohs that were mummified there. So that is about what I have. I thought this stuff was very interesting, and it was a very unique way of making art in ancient Egypt. So thank you very much, and have a good day.